Welcome to another Hemp episode of Hemp Aware Radio. This is your entrepreneurial host, Tyler Hemp, here to empower your hemposphere as usual with what's most important in life. And I've been doing this podcast now for over 8 years, and it never gets old. Every time I speak to another entrepreneur, it feels like I am just having a brand new conversation about hemp and learning new things and helping spread this message of hemp across the world and bringing it into people's lives and homes and jobs. And today's definitely one of those days. I recently had the chance to meet Angel Israel of the Kenya Hemp Conference, and I just had to bring her on the podcast to share her story and hopefully inspire you to get involved and attend the Kenya Hemp Conference, either as a guest or maybe even set up a booth and be an exhibitor there if you have your own hemp company. And the Hemp Kenya Conference, or the Kenya Hemp Conference, their vision is a sustainable future where hemp plays a vital role in agriculture, industry, and nutrition. By focusing on innovative research and development, they aim to position Kenya as a leader in the global hemp market, creating economic opportunities and fostering environmental stewardship. And as the director of Kenya Hemp Conference, Angel Israel, otherwise known as Alexis Hubbard, is a dynamic leader in sustainable development, community empowerment, and women's advocacy. And she's the founder and CEO of Savor the World, which we'll talk about here in just a moment as well. And she drives initiatives that use industrial hemp as a solution for global challenges such as food security, job creation, and environmental sustainability, with active projects in Kenya, Suriname, and her hometown, Sumter, Michigan, USA. Her work is rooted in a passion for uplifting underprivileged communities and creating lasting positive impact. So thank you so much for joining me, Angel. What's hempening?
Hey, it's happening. It's going well here in Kenya and East Africa, and just soaking it all in. So really excited to be on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm excited to share your story because I have a very close relationship to Kenya in the way of my roots. I have my best friend and one of my closest mentors, Bigida Kiro Kiro. He was born in the Congo and traveled the world really, but he was very popular and lived in Kenya and Burundi and Uganda. And so I have a very close affinity. Anybody that knows me, my roots, I have pen pals in Africa, and I've been very involved with sending materials and school materials and raising funds and building schools over in Africa. And so it's just such an exciting opportunity to share your story and what's going on over in Kenya with hemp. But before we get into the actual conference itself, can you share a little bit about like your journey and your background just as a professional, and then what it was that introduced you to hemp and how you got involved in this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey really started in this space about 3 years ago. I was invited to Kenya by a group of friends for like a co-ed trip, just as a vacation. And I came here and absolutely fell in love with East Africa, kind of like how your heart is like connected here and you haven't even been here. So just imagine like actually visiting. And while I was here, I was just like shopping at like the local stores, and I noticed like there were hemp products. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I started to do a little digging into like, hemp in the country. And it was like, oh, it's outlawed, but everything was like imported in. So I was like, okay, there's hemp milk on the shelves, hemp seeds, hemp hearts, hemp seed oil, like I mean, you name it, like Dr. Bronner's, like hemp soap, like all this hemp stuff, but yet it's it's this gray area of like what you can do with it in the country. So I just started talking to people. My 3-week vacation here in Kenya turned into 3 months I extended my visa, started talking to people. One conversation led to another meeting and another meeting, and I found my way with, talking with civic politicians within government here in Kenya. And they were quite shocked to see that, oh my goodness, there are products on our shelves approved by our government to be sold. But according to our legislation, this shouldn't be going on. And I was like, well, there's a disconnect here, right? And so that was, my background is actually marketing and media. I've worked for I've was working in TV for a while within the media side and sales side. And then I worked on the agency side with like digital media buying and stuff like that. And so I applied those skills to basically kind of taking that same my corporate background and applying it to, you know, working with the Kenyan government to convince them to allow my organization, Savor the World, to, you know, be able to further research and make this open for the country. So instead of this just being, you know, imported in, Kenya should also be producers and growers of these products as well, and what that can do for the economy. So one thing led to another, and in short, Savor the World was able to get a research agreement with the Kenyan government parasital to begin introducing industrial hemp from seed to shelf to the country. So that has been the last 3 years for us here in Kenya, and it has been an exciting journey, wild but exciting.
Wow. How cool. So you just happened to go on like a vacation, just a casual trip to Kenya, and you came across these hemp products on the shelves, and you were like, what is this? Like I imagine you probably understood what cannabis was and the more recreational or medicinal side of the plant. And then was this kind of your first introduction to hemp as a food and an alternative resource to other things other than like smokable products?
Yes, correct. Because like being from Michigan, like one of my mentors, he was involved in like the recreational and medicinal side. And as of course legislation had recently changed over the last few years in the US, it was like, okay, I know about this. And not that I wasn't like for it, but it was just like, I feel that Africa could truly benefit more on this food side. And if they could really see the benefits of it and how it's actually separate and disconnected from the recreational side, from the medical side, this could really bring, you know, really good growth and development economically to the country, as well as nutritional value when you think about food security, and both for humans and, you know, animal feed. So it was just like a win-win. And I think, you know, often it's really the lack of knowledge more than anything. And so again, taking my background in media and marketing to really shift that conversation and bring awareness to it.
Absolutely. So that's so interesting that you were on this trip. It was supposed to be a 3-week trip. It ended up turning into a 3-month trip. And then during that time, how were you able to get in touch with state representatives or governmental officials to present them Savor the World and then get this research? Is it a grant or what is tell me a little bit about the research part of it, but also like how did you meet these representatives and be able to share with them?
So I'll start with meeting the people. So the group that invited me to Kenya, they had previously come to Kenya, so they had made some connections. And actually, one of the connections that they had made in Kenya, who was kind of like taking us around and stuff like that, he was very well connected and made some introductions for me within that space. Like, oh, you should talk to this person in government, or you should talk to, and it's like, you know, and it's a lot different, like being here on the continent. And I guess I'll just speak specific to the continent. It's many, many countries. So being here in Kenya, it's like you're one person away from, you know, government or the president or, you know, something in that nature. So it's just like, oh, okay, you're interested in this, this is the person, or let me walk you to the ministry and, you know, here, try your luck. And so that's how I got connected with these. So no research grant. It's actually Savor the World with a research agreement with the Kenyan government parasital to do the research. So Savor the World, up until this point, we have independently funded this, and of course we're always looking for partners. So it has been, you know, up until that point, and then recently I guess we'll open that conversation up soon too, but recently we've gotten some support from my country, from the US, to push this forward a little bit more. So we're really excited, you know, to usher in Kenya's and Africa's first official industrial hemp focused conference in January. So super excited about that.
Yes, we're definitely going to talk about the conference here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to take a step back and ask, is there a childhood memory that feels like maybe a sneak peek into what you do now and how you got into, I know you've been in media and marketing and advertising, and now you're infusing hemp into what you're doing? Or was this just a total random choice to get into this? So do you feel like there was maybe a childhood memory that was a sneak peek of what you've been doing now?
I think so. I grew up in Sumter, Michigan. If you look at Sumter, Michigan, it's a small town in Michigan, South Detroit. I don't know if you know that Kid Rock song, like born and raised in South Detroit. That's literally me, a straight country girl. Grew up on 15 acres of land with my family, and so that connection with Earth, with Mother Earth, has always been a thing for me, just from childhood. And I feel like when you connect with industrial hemp and that crop and the endless opportunities and possibilities of what it does and how it gives back to just the earth, it reminds me of, my childhood, the farming and growing up and producing different things. So that's how I connect that.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. I mean, anybody that has that connection to the planet or has an affinity to nature and our ecosystems, when you come across hemp, you just see how harmonious it is to all of that. So that totally makes sense, and I get it. So I also want to know who or what has been the biggest influence on your career path and your overall personal philosophy.
Yes, absolutely. I would have to say my mentor, Andres McDonald. He was and has been very, very influential. When I first began this journey, specifically like in Kenya, and I just like there were many times where I felt like giving up, the challenges, the misconception, the constant, me handing out like hemp socks, and the Kenyan government is like, oh, if I wear these, will I get high? And I'm like, oh my goodness, just kind of the also just like there's not really racism here, but there's genderism, right? And so like being a woman and it's still being very, very traditional on roles and things like that. It was just a lot of challenges. And he was like, don't give up, keep going, keep shooting your shot. Something will eventually stick. And just like looking back at that and how he has always, just kind of kept pushing me. I remember like, oh, I'm just going to start small. And he said the same energy you'll put into starting small is the same energy you would put to start big. So just, think big, go big. And another very, very influential person who was like a mentor to me as I came into the industrial hemp space and my passion for it, especially because I wasn't going towards the typical way of medicinal and medical and things like that. And people like 3 years ago, they really still couldn't see industrial hemp when I was talking about hempcrete and things like that. They're like, well, look at the cost of it. And I said, well, yeah, the cost is high because it's not enough materials being grown to make it comparable. And then you also can't really compare hempcrete to your traditional concrete. And so just constantly being faced with these challenges. But another person that I would say I would call him my industrial hemp godfather would be Joe Hickey out of Kentucky. He has been always there to support any way possible. So those are two influential people over the last few years on my hemp journey, I should say, that
How
have
cool.
played a huge role. Yes.
Most certainly. So to get into the conference and sharing this journey of connecting with officials and connecting with agricultural influences or farmers and sharing this message with locals in the area and just kind of getting your boots on the ground, what's one lesson in starting this organization and this conference that has taught you something about life or something about hemp? Like, is there something that you grasp from it that's like a big lesson in starting this journey or this conference?
I would say patience, one, just like really learning patience and culturally, just a lot of culture differences, right? So as open-minded and progressive as America is, and America really does lead the way. When you look at America changing their legislation shortly after, other African countries and other countries began to open up as well. And so having the patience to take the time and work with those partners here locally to push forward, but it takes a lot of patience. And also, yes, culturally, the US were a lot more open, right? And taking that time, reshaping the minds and things of people here, it has definitely taught me and brought me a great ball of patience. But it's been for the better. I've been able to apply it to both the project as well as my personal life. So it's been a huge bonus.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, traveling and seeing the world and different cultures, it helps make you such a well-rounded person. Of course, you have to be open-minded and willing to learn and see things differently. Patience in the hemp industry is the name of the game. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I feel like we're just now to the point where 2018 hemp was legalized, and more government officials and policymakers and heads of corporations are seeing the benefit and the value of incorporating hemp. And I know you're working on some really big opportunities when it comes to hemp. So I want to talk about where your passion is and what hemp products and resources you want to work on. But before I do, is there anything that you've had to, I guess, unlearn in your path with the hemp industry or creating this conference?
So I think for me, again, coming into this with the mentality that like I have to really unlearn that the medicinal side is not the highlight. That's not the only financial opportunity. You don't have to start there to actualize and make this work. And so I have gone against the grain and said, I want to go backwards. I don't want to start with medical. I don't want to start with CBD. I want to start with all things industrial hemp focused when it comes to the fiber, food, and fuel. And so a lot of people are pushing back at that, right? Because the numbers aren't as grand as, immediately as you would see when people are looking up some of the other things. And so reprogramming my mind and then working to reprogramming others' minds to see that, in the long run, right, that this is truly the way to go. So that has been something I've had to read.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, most people, when they hear hemp, they're still thinking CBD or hemp smokable products or things that are related to the cannabinoid side of things. And that's where the majority of the money has gone and has been made in the last 20 years, because that's just been the craze. But you're absolutely right that the future really has a massive potential to make a lot more economic impact and create job opportunities and be more profitable in the long run, like especially the building materials and food and consumable products. So I totally agree with you, and that's why all these years I've stuck to the seed and the fiber side of the plant as well. The idea that this can be a solution for food, shelter, clothing, like those three basic fundamental needs, not to mention energy, plastic, and fuel. It's just mind-blowing how big this opportunity is. But with every new career or new job or new company, there's always challenges. And so is there one piece of advice that you'd give to somebody entering into the hemp industry or wanting to create a new company or a new event per se?
Don't get discouraged, keep going, no matter what roadblocks are thrown your way, no matter other people's experiences and things like that. Don't give up. And we have a special guest joining us as well. But yes, don't give up. I think would be the highlight of that. And don't get discouraged. It has been, like I said, it's been a huge journey. But if I was to look back and have a pep talk with myself, it would be that, because I look at where I am now. And I'm really glad that I didn't give up. But I probably wanted to give up almost every other day. And then I look back and I'm like, wow. And if I would have given up, not only would I be giving up on my company and myself, but just the world at large and what this will do for the world. So don't give up. Stay encouraged.
I appreciate that. Yeah, my best friend Kiro used to always say, never give in. He would have this energy and attitude of persistence and consistency. And so I'm very much a believer in that. And when the going gets tough, just keep going. And there's something on the other side that's going to be so much more valuable and worth that struggle. So I totally agree with you on that. And you have a background in advertising and marketing and media buying. Is there something that you can share with us that is a bit of advice in terms of how to stand out? Because now that the hemp industry is becoming so popular and there's more and more companies and products coming on the market, and there's also the existing products that are not hemp based, like how do we stand out? What's one thing that people can do to be unique and different when it comes to standing out in the marketplace?
I would say the strategy here, though, like in Kenya and how to appeal to the market. And one thing that set me aside specifically here in Kenya was seeing is believing. So I did a lot of live demonstrations on what this could be. So not just talking about it, but actually bringing it to life, that touch, that feel, that see, that hear, the taste, so just really, and then not just talking about what this could do, but again, as I mentioned, showing what it could do. So a part of our research last year is that we took the seeds from our research, we took them to a local pasho mill, and we figured out how to use the flour from the seeds to integrate that into one of the top two local dishes that are used in Kenya, which is the hemp ugali and a hemp uji, which is like a porridge. And people absolutely loved it. So they were able to connect with it, right? And so then also applying it to what are some of the pressing issues within that area that hemp can truly solve. And so another one was, okay, the cake after you press the hemp seed oil, and how that can apply for animal feed, because the cost of animal feed right now is through the roof here. And so people are looking for alternatives. And then not just, okay, it's, maybe more cost effective, but then it's also healthier and provides, a stronger, healthier cattle for you. So just a lot of more seeing is believing to set us aside from just here's the product. It's good. No, this is the product and here is why, and try it for yourself and feel it and see it for yourself. So that's been my approach.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, one of my mentors taught me demonstration beats conversation. So if you can demonstrate and engage the senses, like you said, show, don't tell, and try to relate it to something that's familiar to who you're showing it to. Like in Africa, you talked about the ugali or this porridge, and integrating hemp into that. It's like something they're familiar with and they're open-minded. So they're likely going to accept it and be willing to consider it as a solution, which was the other point you made I thought was really important. Focus on how hemp can solve specific problems, because people listen when you can identify a challenge or a struggle or a problem, because any good story starts out with a big problem, and then overcoming that problem is that hero's journey, and using hemp as the hero of that journey and showing the bridge of how to solve that problem, I think is crucial. And then the third thing you said is education. Like, just the word education actually comes from the Latin word educare, which means to bring out from within. So if we can lead people by demonstration and incorporate it into something that's familiar and educate them along the way, I think that's a really powerful way to stand out in the marketplace. So that's really great advice. I appreciate that. So to get into the actual conference, and we're recording this in mid-November 2024. Tell me a little bit about what the plan is. Who would you like to attend? What is it that you really need right now in order to make this thing a success? And when is it going to be happening, and where, and all of that?
Yeah, so Africa's first industrial hemp conference is taking place in 2025, kicking off January 20th to the 21st in Nairobi at the Villa Popinski Hotel. And we're just really excited to bring this not only to Kenya, but to Africa at large and the world at large, and really being able to showcase, what we've been doing, what we inspire to do, and really highlighting what we really need, not just beyond the conference, it's just support, more support to actualize and really help shift this in a positive, uplifting direction to keep growing within the industrial hemp space here in Kenya and expanding throughout the East African region. And so for the conference specifically, we are looking for, of course, more people to attend, exhibitors, vendors, speakers, as well as sponsors. So kind of falling all in that range. And the focus of the conference will be honing in on learning and educating, and then also a lot of demonstrations. So we will be doing a lot of demonstrations, a lot of hands-on. Our speakers will be diving into processing. We'll be diving into structures and things that are already in place in the country that will easily be able to integrate and accept this as even just a rotational crop, and what we can do after harvest and how we don't have to reinvent the wheel too much with we're already in the country, as well as talking about policy and learning from the mistakes of just what we did in the US as we changed policy and how we can drive this totally different based on what we've seen as legislation and things have changed throughout the world, and how Kenya could truly be the leader in this space, depending on how this continues to develop. So that's an overall view of the conference and the direction we're looking to go. So we're very excited.
Awesome. So someone listening to this in the United States or in Canada or in Western Europe, they might think, yeah, it's Africa, it's outside of our realm, like we really don't need to be there. But why would somebody in any other country other than Kenya or within the continent of Africa want to attend this? What would be the benefit and opportunity for them to be there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great, especially for those Western countries and partners, it's a great opportunity for them to, I truly believe that Africa is the next China, so just what that looks like in a very positive way. China is awesome, right? But it will be the, made in Africa instead of made in China. So being a part of the development of that here, I think this is just like a really good time for it. So
cool. So it could be that hemp companies could start a new branch or get into the ground level of the hemp industry over there by maybe partnering with farmers and supplying them with seed or setting up a processing facility or just being a part of the growth and opportunity there.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Okay. And then what is your website? How can people find you and support you? I know you're looking for sponsorship. So if anybody has a company out there and hemp products that they want to promote or be a part of the giveaways, how can they get in touch with you and get products over to you? What's the best way to do that?
Right now, everyone can check out all details regarding the conference, a little bit more into our research and what we're doing at hempkenya.com.
Hempkenya.com. Check it out, everyone, and reach out to Angel. If you have a hemp company, please sponsor this. Be a part of it in any way that you can, not only to help get them off the ground in Kenya. There's an amazing opportunity here, but also to get the word out about your products, get exposure, get in front of potentially very large companies and corporations that could be attending this event. And so, Angel, to kind of take a step back and talk more about the marketing side of things, because at HempAware, we help hemp companies grow and scale and get more traffic and turn that traffic into leads and turn those leads into buying customers, and then ultimately make those customers become ambassadors and spread the good word about whatever it is they're doing. Is there any other advice when it comes to marketing hemp products specifically that you would share with our listeners?
Yes, I would say too, one thing that I've learned to do is that I no longer lead with hemp. I lead with, this is a great crop that is, has been used for thousands and thousands of years. And I highlight all the goodness, all the great things that it does. And because oftentimes I've noticed that when I start with hemp and I end up going down that road of spending time and trying to tell the difference between, hemp and marijuana or something. So just leading with the value of it. This is it's a fiber crop, or it's a great alternative for food. It's very nutritional. It's a superfood. And so I've really began to kind of stay away from the word hemp until actually I kind of feel more warmed up and I've been able to fill the room like, okay, they won't go down that path of it. So just a good marketing tool is like, you don't have to highlight that it's hemp or it's connected to the cannabis family. Just highlight truly what it is as far as the many value additions of it and what it does.
That's a really powerful bit of advice, especially in marketing, because the core of what marketing is to find a need and fulfill it. And so if you can get to what people truly need in life and avoid the stigmas and the negative connotations by focusing on their needs, and then once you identify, hey, I can help you solve this problem that you have, and then bring in the fact that it's hemp, they're already going to be open to listening to what you have to say. So I really appreciate that approach and agree with you that maybe don't start with hemp. Just like a lot of companies create a brand and make a logo and they put the hemp leaf on there, and they're immediately losing a huge percentage of their audience that could be open to what they have to offer because they immediately associate it with the side of the plant that has a really bad stigma. So I'm definitely going to apply that more in what I'm doing and share that with our customers. So in terms of what you see as the biggest opportunity for hemp in Kenya, what would you say your focus is going to be, or somebody that wants to put boots on the ground in Kenya, or maybe existing companies in Kenya? What are like maybe the top two biggest opportunities for hemp there?
I would say the biofuel. I think right now, like the focusing on the SAF, like the sustainable aviation fuel, is like a huge agenda for me. So when it comes to like the biofuel, that's like a huge focus. And next up would be food security. I think just like that food security for both animals and humans is just so important in what, the value that it can bring to the youth, to adults, and again with the animal feed would be really, those are the two top focuses. And then if I can throw a third in there, it would be the fiber for hempcrete. For hempcrete would be the third. Just sliding that in there.
Yeah, that's amazing. So fuel for our bodies with food safety and security, and then food or fuel for the aviation world. That's a huge opportunity. I mean, airplanes go through massive amounts of fuel. So there's a huge gap in the market there as far as hemp fuel. Now, to dive a little bit deeper into that process, can you share with us, have you done much research on what it would take to take hemp from a plant and turn that into a biofuel? Like what part of the plant is used and what does that process look like?
Yeah, so for specifically with the aviation fuel, it would be the oil from the seeds. Which would be pretty seamless. So it would be like, using here I know there is a company that focuses on oil from the castor seeds. And it's really just a matter of pressing out the oil and that, so it doesn't even get into the ethanol point of it. And actually Kenya Airways has done some testing. They ran one of their planes actually a full flight on biofuel, and I think it was derived from castor oil here. So that is, it's really inspiring and has really pushed me to go into that.
Wow, that is so cool. So basically pressing the seed for that rich oil and then using that as the biofuel source. I'll definitely want to do more research into that. I remember hearing about a group doing a trip across the United States in a Mercedes station wagon, and their website's actually still up, hempcar.org, if anybody wants to go check it out and see how they educated people on the use of hemp for biofuel. But to kind of wrap up our conversation, I really appreciate you doing what you're doing, and I look forward to being a part of the Kenya Hemp Conference however I can. But in terms of a couple other things, like the biggest challenges that you have to face when it comes to launching this conference, what would you say is one of the biggest obstacles or challenges that you've had to overcome, or maybe that you're currently overcoming, and what are you doing to overcome that?
I think, again, like one of your questions you had mentioned earlier was, appealing to people to sponsor and support and trying to get them to see where the opportunity is. So people in Canada and Europe or Australia, and really like, no, you should really come out and support us. And this is how you can tie in, and really selling them the opportunity to bring what you're already doing in your prospective countries here. And, being able to expand and having an opportunity to have access to more land, more affordable employees and things like that. And then being able to help the economy and the people here. It's a huge benefit, not just for the greatness and welfare of people, but also for the expansion to be able to have more products on the market at a more affordable cost, right? So when I'm trying to tell people hempcrete is better, and they're just like, yeah, but it's also more expensive. And so we talk about just touching on eco and being more sustainable, but why does eco have to mean more expensive? We need to also have it be eco-friendly to more users to actually be able to reach more people and really make an impact more on the world. The more people that can afford to be in this eco space, not just with hemp, it would really, we can really begin to see a shift. So just really getting that support from abroad has been a challenge, but it's slowly making a shift. So we're excited for January.
Most certainly. Yeah. And the word eco or eco comes from the Greek word ikos, which means home. And so when we look at our economy, it's the numbers of our home, or, the resources organized. It's the ecology, the study of our home. And this planet is our home. These bodies are our home. This universe is our home. And so having harmony within our home is what hemp can do. And so it's so much more than just the cost of the material, because when you look at the long-term benefit, you're not going to have to replace it as often. It's going to have overall energy efficiency. So you're going to have a higher quality of life. And there's just so much more eco benefit than just the economical benefit. So I completely agree with you and appreciate that point. And so I look forward to helping you pack out this conference however I can. But is there any other questions that I should have asked you that I did not?
I think you covered everything, which I'm really excited. And you even threw in questions I wasn't even expecting. So I think you hit the nail right on and definitely brought some awesome hemp awareness.
Well, it's my pleasure. I just have two last questions here. What would you say is the number one goal for the Kenya Hemp Conference? In other words, like, what is this big vision here? Like, where do you see this going in 5 to 10 years?
I mean, my biggest goal is the awareness, and really in 5 to 10 years, seeing Kenya and the East African region being the global hub for industrial hemp. I feel right now no one truly owns that industrial hemp space, and opening up really strong trade relations between Kenya and US and more East African countries. It's something that we have not yet seen done globally. And in the next 5 to 10 years, I truly feel that this will be an opportunity that we will see actually happen with those relationships. So really looking forward to what that looks like.
Me too. I believe in that vision very much. And I feel like you have the wherewithal to get it done. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And as a parting question, if you had the opportunity to share a message with every single human being on the planet and you wanted them to know one thing about hemp, what would that be?
It's truly the gift that we have been given by Mother Earth, and it will provide all life essentials and needs in one plant in 90 days. And we need to embrace it, love it, and spread it across this globe as fast as we can.
Amen. So there you have it, folks. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hemp Aware Radio. This was an interview with Angel Israel of the Kenya Hemp Conference. Just go to hempkenya.com. Check out what they're doing. Get your ticket to the conference. Become an exhibitor if you can. Contact her and see how you can get some of your products displayed and handed out at the conference. And let's make it hempen together. And as a parting comment, if you visit hempaware.com and are looking for an audit on how you're marketing your hemp products, we would love to help you with a complimentary website and marketing audit. No cost at all. We'd love to share a couple of hidden gaps that you might have in your company to help you get those customers in front of your products and ultimately convert them and become loyal customers of yours. Just go to hempaware.com and let us empower your hemposphere. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. And thanks again, Angel.
Welcome. Thanks. Hooray.